Peace, peace, shalom. How's everybody doing? Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. I want to take a moment to sit there and address a matter that was discussed. The other day, I posted saying we may as well celebrate the 4th of July if we are saying that we were indigenous to this land. Now, what I'm addressing is this. When I say we, I'm speaking about us as black people, Negroes, if you will. There is a teaching that is saying that the Atlantic slave trade did not happen and that our black ancestors did not come from the shores of Western Africa and that we, quote unquote, we were already here being what we call the United States of today. Now, my point is this. If that is the case, then what is the point in not celebrating the 4th of July, which was for the people being freed from the British? Now, even if the logic that some people employ by saying, oh, okay, when it is said that we were here originally, the 4th of July had nothing to do with the quote-unquote black indigenous of this land. But the 4th of July has something to do with the British no longer having a hegemony over the colonies of America. So by default, if an oppressor of any particular land is being defeated, that means by default you are seeing some kind of liberty and freedom yourself by default. And so even if you take it to the point that I'm trying to explain about ancient Israel, for instance, right? The Medes and the Persians was still having rule over the Israelites, yet they defeated the Babylonians, who were oppressors of the Israelites. So by the Babylonians being defeated, that gave the Israelites some kind of liberty, though it wasn't completely 100%. You understand? So if you are saying that we, black people, are the indigenous people of this land, that means when the British were defeated, by default, you would have seen some kind of liberty or freedom in the process. And so this is a point that I wanted to make out for edification purposes. Another thing to point out, brothers and sisters, is this. If people are going to sit there and say that we, the black people, are indigenous to this land, what is your language? What is your culture? You're already claiming the land, so what language belongs to the people of that land? Okay, the other matter to address and what I wanted to ask is this. When the people say that the slave ships and we are the slave ships, nobody asked that to the Chinese who was shipped over to the Western Hemisphere in regards for them to build a railroad. Nobody asked the East Indians who are in the place we call Guyana of today about where those ships. The only people who asked about where the ships are black people. And so what I believe, brothers and sisters, is the fact that some white boy done came online, posed as a black boy, asked some of them same dumb questions, such as where are the ships and can the weight that was on the slave ships be handled and everything of that sort. And black people ran with it. That was not an indigenous, okay, question asked by black people. Because if you look at any black scholar from Malcolm X, even right to John Henry Clark, even right down to Bawashango, right down to Sertima, among many others who are authors themselves in many cases, none of them ascribe to the idea that the Atlantic slave trade going west did not happen. Now, did the Atlantic slave trade go east? Yes. But we are not in the east. We're in the west. So obviously, we're going to focus more on what part affected us more. What seems to happen is they want to pacify the situation. They want to sit there and put less light on the situation of what happened with the black man coming from Western Africa to what we call the Western Hemisphere or America of today. You understand? And so one of the things that I've been trying to sit there in my videos and combating this kind of fallacy is to ask this question here. If you're saying that we are the natives of this place, and it goes back to my question about what is our language, how do we have names such as Bradley, Johnson, Hutchinson, Smith, and so forth, as far as other English and in certain cases Spanish last names. What happened to our language that caused us to have to sit there and adopt the names of other people? And so this is something, brothers and sisters, I wanted to point out and ask for edification purposes. In regards to the weight on the slave ships themselves, brothers and sisters, you had ships that go all the way back to the era of the 1700s and even the 1600s that had cannons. You know, a cannon, you know, those things that you put something in, then you light it with fire after putting a powder in. And so there were cannons in Brazil that were shipped from Europe. It takes about the average of a cannon to be 2,500 to 4,000 pounds. The average human does not weigh over 300 pounds. So if you have a ship that's able to hold thousands of pounds, brothers and sisters, then why is anybody asking a question about the weight of people being on the ship? It's because it's some so-called newfound knowledge that people want to sit there and take and run with. Nobody's asking too many questions. Nobody's answering too many questions. And when I've discussed this with people who want to sit there and try to deny that even slavery itself happened in the Western Hemisphere, they usually drop a lot of F-bombs, a lot of profanity usually comes from that. And I can see the frustration because I've used profanity when I'm trying to quote unquote get a point across or I'm upset or so forth and so on. But if you're saying that you found yourself, if you're saying that you have been enlightened, if you're saying that you found your home and so forth, then there's no need for you to be that emotional and that upset about it. That only applies to people who are lost. People who are lost and don't understand their roots, who don't understand the proper wording to convey a message. But when you're still speaking a European tongue and you have no answer for what is your language, then you have a problem. I've noticed, brothers and sisters, once it's come down to this particular subject matter, it's a lot of feelings and emotions that come from a lot of people concerning this. So while one apparently is attempting to pacify and to deny the history of the black man coming out of Africa, it seems to be the same case, brothers and sisters, that people are trying to promote a whole new different kind of aspect. Even for what it's worth, when you look at some of the memes, there was a picture of obviously the red coat British fighting against people who had spears and shields. And they're saying these are the natives, but the meme was actually showing Zulus in South Africa, not West. So the point I'm saying is this: you cannot look at a continent such as Africa that has the majority of black people on the planet is in Africa, coming out of Africa. They will tell you where they came from, even in migrating from one part of Africa to the next, and then try to sit there and say, trying to make the white man feel appeased, perhaps. Because I swear, brothers and sisters, this started from some white boy posing as black. There was only 500,000 people brought to America. Only 500,000. That's 500,000 sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters. So essentially, forget the fact that that is, even if you take that number to be accurate, let's just forget that to be the case, even though J.A. Rogers in his day and time said it was about 12 million, but okay. You want to sit there and say only 500,000 as if to say that's a low number. Like, it's only that. If a person murders a person, he is no more or less guilty than he who murders 5 or 6 people. You're still a murderer. So trying to pacify, I gotta keep on saying, the situation, trying to sit there and decimate the idea of the black man's Holocaust. You understand? What you've done is you have led black people, quote unquote, backwards to now we are still under that doctrine, still wondering what is our language, what is our culture, and at the end of the day, what is our land? What plan do you have for the said natives that are upon the reservations? Do you understand? Do you take the same names that the natives have, such as the Choctaw, the Seminole, and so forth and so on? do you sit there and take those names, or were those the names that the said Mongoloid people from Asia came over? Did they take coming, or quote unquote, according to some, or coming across the Bering Strait, did they take on the names of the natives that were in here already? Or were those natives that we see in the reservations their true names, and black people today are trying to take on those names? And so this is something, brothers and sisters, that leads to more questions than answers. So the main theme seems to be is to deny that the Atlantic slave trade happened. And if it did not happen, and if we are the true people, as said, quote unquote, Turtle Island, you may as well just celebrate July the 4th and wave the flag. See, I've discussed this with several people over the course of months, and as a person who, not being haughty, is a studier, a researcher, I read with my eyes and I hear with my ears. You understand? And so when I see a video of somebody promoting that, oh, the black people are the natives of this land, and you still holding up the United States flag, we have a problem. Don't tell me to not look at the flag. You understand? Don't sit there and tell me not to sit there and peep the game that's being promoted while you calling the white woman a Moabite and so forth and so on, and you want to sit there and lay with her, because that's what it boils down to at the end of the day. You understand? You cannot talk deep black history, brothers and sisters. You cannot talk deep black history and still want to sit there and side along with the natives. Because if you study the natives, especially the Cherokee, you will find out that they had black people as slaves. In the year 1842, there was a slave rebellion against the Cherokee people by black people. All right. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we consistently want to sit there and bring out. So some may say, okay, well, you're in your feelings. Maybe I am in my feelings. I'm feeling for the blood of my ancestors. I'm feeling for the blood of my people. And therefore, being in those feelings and in those thoughts, never will a brother sit there and be pacified by saying, well, we may as well just claim this land right here. Your mama was here, your papa was here, so, well, it is what it is. I'm not claiming Hutchinson as my last name perpetually. And because no one seems to be able to answer how in the world we were supposedly never slaves, according to some, when I'm expressing these different doctrines you see on Facebook and some YouTube videos, if it never happened, how in the world did we sit there and get these names? What is our language? See, when a person is saying that he or she is an Israelite, they're saying that Hebrew is their language. They're saying that their land is over in the east. You understand? So with that being the case, we have to sit back and see, brothers and sisters, that if there were black people in Asia, in Europe, and if there were black people in Australia, even to this day, the argument presented by saying, okay, well, we are the indigenous people to what they refer to as Turtle Island, all right? The argument is given that we are no quote-unquote effing from Africa, and effing being the F-bomb, because remember, you don't know your language as a Native American, so therefore you have to speak the profane European language by dropping F-bombs to convey your thought. Where are your classes that's showing the aspect of what your language is? Because, not to be haughty, I hold Hebrew classes. As an Israelite, as they said, Moreh, in Israel, it's incumbent upon me to sit there and try to present what we're saying is ours to the people. And it's beyond just doing some kind of video with your European name without explaining perhaps why you got that European name. I remember one instance in which I asked somebody, what is our language? What is our language? And the person sat there and said, our language would be English, Latin, and Spanish. I mean, you hate Africa that much, my Moorish brother, and it's not all Moors, but you hate Africa that much, my Moorish brother, that you're willing to sit there and claim Spanish as your language? Really? So this is something to be pointed out for edification purposes. The questions that's asked to people such as myself is not answered when I ask the same question back. Where are the slave ships? I can ask you, where are the ships that the Moors took when they went and conquered Spain? You understand? Where are the ships that the Chinese came over on? So to sit there and ask that, knowing good and well that there was about denying and lying, denying and lying. That's what it boils down to. You understand? And so I will never accept that doctrine. I will never sit there and co-sign such a doctrine. I will never sit there and think that it will behoove me to even accept such a doctrine. That doctrine is false. It's a farce and false. It's a false and a farce, brothers and sisters. All right? When you saying that you have to go to court and we're going to use your social security, white man given number, and your name and your birth certificate as a legal document, only thing you're doing is just letting the white man know that he has power over you. You understand? And you're going to sit there and say you don't have to pay the taxes and this and that. So is it a money scheme kind of thing that's going on in that regard? Because if you're using American law, and we already can see from the 60s and before then, our people were oppressed under the American law, how in the world then, brothers and sisters, can such be the case? How can that be a wise thing? And why is it that some of them same people, or the majority, or almost all of those people, hate Africa the way they do? See, you can't love America and Africa just as much as you can't love the black man and the white man. So with that being the case, brothers and sisters, this is something we want to sit there and emphasize, that all of the F-bombs made against us supposedly coming out of Africa, I ain't no effing African, I ain't effing from Africa, and so forth and so on. But can you say I am not from Africa in your Native American language? Hey, yo, you have a good day. Peace.